Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel General Hospital today. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The sun hung low over Port Charles, casting long shadows across the manicured lawns of the Courtemain estate, where the air was thick with the scent of blooming roses and the faint, underlying tang of grief. It was Monday, September 22, 2025. And the city that had weathered storms of every kind, literal and metaphorical, was about to confront one that cut deeper than any mob war or medical crisis. Monica Courtemain, the indomitable heart of the Courtemain dynasty, had passed away peacefully in her sleep the previous weekend, her body finally succumbing to the quiet toll of years spent fighting for every inch of life, love, and legacy. The news had rippled through the hospital corridors like a shockwave, silencing pagers and halting surgeries mid-stitch. Nurses whispered in hushed tones by the coffee machines. Doctors paused in their rounds to bow their heads, and even the most hardened souls in the underworld felt the weight of it. Monica wasn't just a chief of staff. She was Port Charles itself, flawed, fierce, and unyieldingly devoted to the people she loved. At the Metro Court, Carly Spencer Corinthos was nursing a black coffee in the bustling lobby when her phone buzzed insistently on the marble tabletop. She glanced at the screen, expecting the usual barrage of messages from her endless juggling act of ex-husbands, scheming daughters, and the ever-present shadow of Sonny's latest business dealings. Instead, it was Ned Courtemain, his voice cracking like dry leaves underfoot as he delivered the blow. "Carly, it's Monica. She's gone." The words hung in the air, refusing to land properly, as if saying them aloud might shatter the fragile illusion that the Courtemains were invincible. Carly's hand trembled, the coffee cup slipping from her fingers to clatter against the saucer, spilling dark rivulets across the pristine white linen. She had known Monica for decades, through marriages that imploded like grenades, betrayals that scarred deeper than any scalpel, and reconciliations forged in the fire of shared loss. Monica had been the one to stitch up Carly's wounds, both literal and figurative, after one too many run-ins with the wrong end of a gun or a vicious rumor. And now she was gone. Carly's mind raced back to their last real conversation, just weeks ago in the hospital's dimly lit break room. Monica had been reviewing charts, her glasses perched on the end of her nose, when Carly had burst in, venting about Sonny's paranoia-fueled accusations that she was still entangled with Drew. Monica had set down her pen, fixed Carly with that piercing blue stare that could disarm a room and said, "Darling, life's too short for what-ifs. You've got a daughter who needs you whole, not fractured. And Sonny, he'll come around or he won't, but you don't get to carry his baggage forever." It was classic Monica. Blunt, maternal, laced with the wisdom of someone who had buried husbands, survived scandals, and raised a family that could fill a small army. Carly had laughed then, brushing it off, but now those words echoed like a eulogy she hadn't known was coming. She stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor, drawing curious glances from the hotel staff. She needed to see Sonny. They might be divorced, fractured by secrets and lies, but grief had a way of welding people back together, if only for a moment. Across town, Sonny Corinthos was in his office at the coffee warehouse, poring over ledgers that blurred into nonsense under the fluorescent lights. The mob life never slept, but lately, it had been gnawing at him more than usual, visions of the past flickering like faulty wiring, reminding him of the blood on his hands and the family he'd built on shaky foundations. Gio, his newest recruit and reluctant protege, was across the desk, outlining a shipment route that skirted the waterfront patrols. "Boss, if we time it right, we avoid the feds altogether," Gio said, his voice steady but his eyes betraying the nerves of someone still proving his worth. Sonny nodded absently, his mind elsewhere, when his phone lit up with Carly's name. He answered on the second ring, and her voice, raw, stripped of its usual armor, hit him like a gut punch. "Sonny, Monica's dead." The words landed heavier than any threat from a rival family. Sonny's face drained of color, his grip tightening on the phone until his knuckles whitened. Monica had been one of the few people who saw through his tough guy facade, who had patched him up after shootouts and called him out on his self-destructive spirals. She had officiated his wedding to Carly, stood by him during the dark days of his bipolar diagnosis, and never once judged the empire he built on gray areas. He ended the call with a murmured promise to meet her soon, then turned to Gio, who was watching him with wide-eyed concern. Family emergency, Sonny grunted, grabbing his coat. Handle the rest. As he strode out into the crisp autumn air, the weight of Port Charles pressed down on him. Monica's death wasn't just a loss. It was a reminder that even the strongest pillars crumbled eventually. He thought of his own children, Michael's quiet resentment, Christina's fragile recovery from her shooting, Donna's innocent laughter, and wondered if he'd done enough to shield them from the storms he brewed. By the time he reached the Metro Court, Carly was waiting in the garden terrace, her arms wrapped around herself against the chill. They didn't speak at first. Words felt inadequate. Sonny pulled her into a hug, his embrace fierce and unyielding, the scent of his cologne mingling with the faint trace of gun oil that never quite washed away. She was the best of us, Carly whispered into his shoulder, her voice muffled. Sonny nodded, his jaw clenched. Yeah, and now we've got to live up to that. Meanwhile, at General Hospital, the epicenter of the city's heartbeat, the news had already infiltrated every corner. Elizabeth Weber was in the nurse's station, updating charts on a comatose patient, when Epiphany Johnson approached, her face etched with sorrow. Liz, you heard about Dr. Quartermain? Epiphany's voice was a low rumble, the kind that carried the weight of too many shifts and too few breaks. Elizabeth's pen stilled, her heart sinking. Monica had been her mentor, the one who had guided her through the chaos of nursing school heartbreaks and professional pitfalls. When? How? She asked, though she dreaded the answer. Last night. Peaceful, they say. But damn if it don't feel like the ground shifted under us. Elizabeth nodded, blinking back tears as she glanced toward the ICU, where monitors beeped in relentless rhythm. Monica had spent her life in these halls, saving lives with steady hands and sharper intuition. Now the hospital felt emptier, as if her absence had sucked the oxygen from the vents. In the Quartermain mansion, the family was gathering like storm clouds on the horizon. Tracy Quartermain, ever the sharp-tongued sentinel, had taken charge of the arrangements with the efficiency born of burying too many loved ones. She paced the living room, her heels clicking against the Persian rug, barking orders into her phone about floral tributes and guest lists. No, I said lilies, not those garish orchids. Monica hated ostentation. Her voice cracked on the name, betraying the vulnerability she buried under layers of sarcasm. Edward might have been the patriarch in name, but Monica had been the soul, the one who held the family together through ELQ boardroom battles, illicit affairs, and the endless cycle of addictions and redemptions. Drew Kane Quartermain arrived next, his face drawn from the strain of his own recent scandals, the botched congressional run, the lingering suspicions around Judge Lindley's death. He had barely crossed the threshold when Tracy pulled him into a rare hug, her arms iron bands around his shoulders. She believed in you, Drew. More than any of us sometimes. Drew swallowed hard, memories flooding back of Monica defending him against the family's doubts, vouching for his place in the Quartermain fold even when his memories were a jigsaw puzzle of Jason's past. Michael Quartermain was the last to arrive, Willow Corinthos Quartermain at his side, her hand in his providing silent support. Their son Wiley was with the sitter, a small mercy in this maelstrom. Michael had always had a complicated relationship with Monica, gratitude for her role in his upbringing clashing with the pain of her occasional favoritism toward AJ's ghost. But as he entered the room, seeing the photos of Monica scattered across the mantel, young and vibrant in her residency days, poised and powerful as chief of staff, he felt a pang of regret for every unspoken thank you. Willow squeezed his hand, her own eyes misty. She had come to admire Monica's quiet strength during her cancer battle, the way the doctor had checked in not just as a physician but as a friend. We'll get through this, Willow murmured, though her voice wavered. The family settled into an uneasy circle, sharing stories that bridged the gaps of resentment. Monica's legendary holiday parties that devolved into sing-alongs, her fierce protection of the hospital during budget cuts, the way she had orchestrated surprise visits from long-lost relatives to mend fences. As evening fell, the news spread beyond the elite circles. At Kelly's diner, Emma Scorpio Drake was wiping down counters when her mother, Robin, called from Paris. Sweetheart, I just heard. Monica was. She was family to us all. Emma's throat tightened. Monica had been the one to deliver her as a newborn, had held her hand through childhood scrapes and teenage heartbreaks. Now, with her own life in flux, Navigating med school applications and a budding romance with Gio, the loss felt like a door slamming on her past. She hung up and texted Gio. "Monica's gone. Need you." His reply was instant. "On my way." By the time he arrived, the diner was closing, the neon sign flickering like a heartbeat. They sat in a corner booth, Joe's arm around her shoulders, listening as she poured out the memories. She always said Port Charles was a small town with big secrets, but she made it feel safe, Emma said, leaning into him. Gio, still an outsider piecing together his place in Sunny's world, nodded solemnly. "Sounds like she was the real boss around here." Tuesday dawned gray and drizzling, the kind of weather that mirrored the collective mood of Port Charles. The hospital buzzed with subdued activity as staff prepared for the informal remembrances that would punctuate the week. Drew, ever the strategist, had called an emergency LQ board meeting, but it quickly devolved into something more personal. Seated around the polished oak table, the Quartermains, Tracy, Ned, Olivia, Brooklyn, and a video-linked Dylan from LA, traded anecdotes that peeled back the layers of Monica's public persona. Ned recalled the time she had outmaneuvered a corporate raider with nothing but charm and a well-timed martini. Olivia laughed through tears about Monica's secret recipe for cannoli that could disarm any argument. But it was Drew who issued the bold orders that shifted the tone. "Monica built this company on integrity," he declared, his voice steady despite the storm in his eyes. "No more backroom deals, no more cutting corners. We're going public with the new green initiative, full transparency." It's what she would have wanted. The room fell silent, then Tracy nodded, a rare glint of approval in her gaze. "Damn right. For Monica." Outside the boardroom, Drew's resolve masked the turmoil churning within. The judge's death still haunted him. The bullet meant for him that had claimed an innocent life, the whispers of conspiracy linking back to his campaign. And now with Monica gone, the pressure mounted. He slipped away to the hospital rooftop, the rain pattering against his jacket, and dialed Jason Morgan. Their brotherhood, forged in amnesia and unbreakable loyalty, was the one constant he could count on. "Jace, it's bad. Monica? And the board's pushing for changes I can't ignore." Jason's response was gruff but reassuring. "You got this, Drew. She saw the leader in you. Don't let the ghosts win." Hanging up, Drew stared out at the harbor, the waves crashing like unanswered questions. Monica had believed in his redemption arc, had pulled strings to clear his name after the Aurora merger debacle. Honoring her meant facing his demons head-on, even if it meant unraveling secrets that could topple empires. At the same time, across the bridge in the heart of the city, Anna Devane was in her sparse apartment, sifting through files on the Lindley case. Her partnership with Dante Falconeri had hit a rough patch, his lingering guilt over the shooting, her own divided loyalties between WSB intel and local PD protocols. But today's lead was a bombshell. A tip from a confidential informant pointing to a connection between the judge and Valentine Cassidy's shadowy dealings in Eastern Europe. Anna's fingers flew across her keyboard, cross-referencing dates and aliases, when her phone rang. It was Dante, his voice edged with urgency. "Anna, we need to talk. Off the record. It's about Nathan." Her blood ran cold. Nathan West, her son, presumed dead for years, gunned down in a confrontation that had shattered her world. Rumors had swirled of sightings of fake deaths but nothing concrete. "What do you mean, Nathan?" she demanded, her accent sharpening like a blade. Dante hesitated, the line crackling with static. "He's alive, Anna. Or something like him. Showed up in the ER last night, no ID, burns from a car wreck. Liz and Lucas are keeping it quiet till we ID him." Anna's mind reeled, fragments of memory assaulting her. Nathan's boyish grin at his wedding to Maxie, the sterile morgue report that had nearly broken her, the empty ache that had defined her for so long. She grabbed her coat and raced to the hospital, dodging rain-slicked streets and her own doubts. In the ER, Elizabeth met her at the door to the private room, her face a mask of professional calm masking deep concern. "Anna, he's stable but unconscious. The accident? It was bad. No wallet, no phone, just a charred keychain with the Port Charles PD emblem." Anna pushed past, her heart pounding as she gazed at the man in the bed, tubes snaking from his arms, bandages covering half his face. It was him. The jawline, the faint scar on his knuckle from a childhood fall. Nathan. Alive. Questions exploded in her mind. Who had he been working with? Why the fake death? And what did this mean for Maxie, for their daughter Georgie? She sank into a chair, clutching his hand, whispering, "My boy, what have you done?" Word of the mystery patient spread like wildfire through the hospital grapevine, but Anna swore the staff to secrecy. Dante arrived minutes later, his detective's badge clipped to his belt, but his eyes betrayed the personal toll. He and Nathan had been like brothers once, partners in the PCPD's trenches. "Car crash on the interstate," Dante explained, flipping through the prelim report. "Single vehicle, no witnesses. But the plates were stolen. Traced to a rental under a false name." Anna's mind whirred, connecting dots to Valentine's network. Had her son been deep undercover, sacrificing everything to dismantle a threat that reached into Port Charles's underbelly? "We keep this between us," she said firmly. "Until he wakes up. No leaks, Dante. Not even to Sonny." He nodded, but the strain showed. His own crises bubbling under the surface, from his father's shadow to the PTSD that woke him in cold sweats. Back at the Quartermain estate, the afternoon brought an unexpected visitor. Martin Gray, the silver-tongued attorney whose loyalties shifted like sand dunes. He arrived with a briefcase full of documents, his usual affable smile tempered by genuine sorrow. "Tracy Nett," Monica left instructions. Specific ones. The family gathered in the study, the rain drumming against the windows like impatient fingers. Martin spread out the papers, codicils to the will, endowments for the hospital, and a sealed letter for each Quartermain. Tracy snatched hers first, her eyes scanning the elegant script. Monica's words were pure, her terse, loving, unflinching. "Tracy, stop fighting the world and start fighting for it. You're tougher than all of us combined. Love, your sister." Tears welled unbidden, and Tracy crumpled the paper to her chest. Ned's letter urged reconciliation with his daughters. Drew's reaffirmed his CEO role with a personal plea to protect the boys, Jason and you always. As Martin prepared to leave, his phone buzzed. He stepped into the hall, answering in a low voice. "Yes, it's done. The package is en route. No traces." Who was on the other end? A client from his Cassadine days, or something tied to Monica's final secrets? The call hung in the air like smoke, a mystery amid the morning. By evening, Port Charles was abuzz with preparations for the memorial. Lucy Coe, ever the event planner extraordinaire, had transformed the hospital's amphitheater into a tribute space. White lilies cascading from arches, a massive screen cycling through photos of Monica's life. But beneath the pageantry, tensions simmered. Brooke Lynn Quartermain was in the green room, adjusting her black dress, when Harrison Chase cornered her. "BLQ, you okay? It's hitting everyone hard." She forced a smile, but her mind was on her pregnancy scare from months ago, the way Monica had been the first to notice her nausea and insist on a checkup. "She was like a mom to me, Chase. More than my own sometimes." Their kiss was tentative, a spark of comfort in the gloom, but interrupted by Olivia bursting in. "Girls, we need you for the eulogy rehearsal." Wednesday brought the first wave of the formal goodbye, the amphitheater filled with faces from every era of Monica's reign. Doctors in scrubs mingled with socialites in designer black, mobsters like Sonny keeping to the shadows, nurses clutching tissues like lifelines. Drew took the podium first, his voice steady as he recounted Monica's battles, from the AIDS crisis that had ravaged the hospital in the 80s to her unyielding advocacy for mental health resources. "She taught us that medicine isn't just science. It's compassion in action." The crowd murmured agreement, but Tracy's eulogy stole the show. She stepped up, her posture ramrod straight, and unleashed a torrent. Monica Quartermain was a force, a woman who loved fiercely, fought dirtier, and forgave with grace I could never master. She built this house, this family, this city brick by bloody brick. And God help anyone who tried to tear it down. Laughter rippled through tears, a cathartic release. As she stepped down, Ned pulled her aside. "That was beautiful, Trace." She waved him off, but her eyes glistened. She deserved no less. In the wings, Anna paced, her mind divided between the service and the man in room 312. Nathan had stirred briefly that morning, murmuring incoherently about the list and Valentine's drop, before slipping back into sedation. Dante had stationed a uniform outside the door, but the questions gnawed at Anna. Was this resurrection a miracle or a trap?